What happens when a society hands ultimate power to, well, to the most ruthless person in the room?
It never ends well, that is for sure.
No, it really doesn't. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Before we jump into this dark, action-packed narrative we have for you today, I just want to pause for a second and offer divine blessing over you.
Yes, absolutely.
May God bless your day today, and may that blessing extend over your entire week, bringing you peace, clarity, and purpose. We're just so thrilled you've carved out some time to join us.
It is genuinely wonderful to have you with us. And the narrative we are pulling apart today, I mean, it is profound. It touches on political corruption, ancient fables, and honestly, some of the most striking poetic justice you will ever encounter in historical texts.
We're diving into Judges chapter 9. And our mission today is really to unpack the spectacular rise and the catastrophic fall of a man named Abimelech.
Right.
But to really grasp the weight of this story, you have to picture the political landscape of ancient Israel at this time.
You really do, because it's so different from what we might imagine.
Exactly. They are essentially this loose confederation of tribes. There is no central monarch, no king sitting on a throne anywhere. In fact, the entire societal structure was built around the idea that God was their king.
And that foundational idea is what makes Abimelech's power grab so brazen. I mean, his father, Gideon, was a major figure who actually rescued Israel from oppression.
Right, Gideon is a huge name in this history.
He is. And when the people tried to make Gideon king, he formally and explicitly rejected the monarchy. He told them point blank that God was their ruler. But Abimelech? He does not share his father's convictions at all.
Not even a little bit.
No, and the irony begins right with his name. Because Abimelech literally translates to, my father is king. So he steps right into the exact ambition his father refused.
Right, he decides he wants the crown, but he needs, a base of operations to pull this off. So he goes to Shechem, which is his mother's hometown, and he makes this highly calculated political pitch to the citizens. He basically plays the ultimate tribal card. He reminds them that Gideon had 70 sons, and he asks them, would you rather be ruled by a massive, disorganized committee of 70 half-brothers or by me? Remember, I am your own flesh and bone.
It is a purely emotional, tribal appeal. And unfortunately, it works. But to mount a coup, you need capital. You need money.
Oh, you always need dark money for this kind of thing.
Exactly. And this is where the sheer depth of the society's corruption becomes visible. The leaders of Shechem are entirely swayed by this flesh and bone argument, so they decide to bankroll his ascension to power. They give him 70 pieces of silver.
But the source of that money is what is truly alarming here.
Yes, they pull it straight from the treasury of the temple of their pagan god, Baal-berith.
Okay, let's unpack the significance of that name for a second.
Yeah.
Because Baal-berith translates to Lord of the Covenant, and the Israelites were defined by their covenant with God. Yet here they are, funding a violent political coup, using dark money from a pagan temple dedicated to a false Lord of the Covenant.
It is a massive betrayal.
It really illustrates this huge cultural shift, what historians often call the Canaanization of Israel. They are losing their distinct identity and completely assimilating into the corrupt, transactional culture of the surrounding Canaanite nations.
The assimilation is total at this point. The society is so morally hollowed out that breaking their divine covenant to fund a usurper just seems like a practical business decision to them.
Yeah, and Abimelech takes those 70 pieces of silver and uses them exactly how you would expect a tyrant to use dark money.
Unsurprisingly.
Right. He hires a private militia, just these worthless and reckless mercenaries. He marches this hit squad to his father's house in Ophrah, and he systematically murders his 70 half-brothers.
It is horrific. He eliminates the entire competing dynastic line in a single afternoon.
And the text gives us this chilling detail, too. He slaughtered all of them on a single stone.
Right. On one stone?
It wasn't just a murder. It was a public ceremonial execution to ensure absolute dominance.
A consolidation of power built entirely on innocent blood. And you would think the citizens of Shechem would recoil in horror at this.
You would hope so.
But they don't. Instead, immediately following this massacre, they gather by the prominent memorial oak in Shechem, and they officially crown Abimelech king. They look at a mass murderer and decide, yes, he's the strong man we need.
But Abimelech made a critical error. He didn't get all of the brothers.
He missed one.
Exactly. The youngest, Jotham, manages to hide and survive the massacre, and when Jotham hears that the people of Shechem have actually crowned his brother's killer, he climbs up to the heights of Mount Gerizim, which overlooks the city.
Now, traditionally, Mount Gerizim was the mountain where blessings were pronounced over the land.
But Jotham is definitely not shouting blessing.
No, not at all.
Instead, he delivers what is essentially an ancient political attack ad. But it's disguised as this bizarre bedtime story about talking trees.
Jotham's fable is just a masterpiece of political critique. He shouts down to the city, and he paints a picture of a forest that desperately wants a king. So the trees approach the most valuable, productive members of their ecosystem first.
Right.
They go to the olive tree and ask it to rule. But the olive tree refuses. It argues that its rigid oil is used to honor both God and humanity. So why should it abandon its true purpose just to sway over the other trees?
So the trees move on to the fig tree, right?
Yes.
But they get the exact same answer. The fig tree refuses to give up its sweetness and its good fruit just to play politics.
Exactly.
Then they beg the grapevine, but the vine says no, too. It argues that its wine brings joy to God and people, and ruling over others would just be a massive distraction. So the underlying message Jotham is delivering to Shechem here is brilliant.
It really is.
He's saying the people who would actually make good, capable leaders are too busy creating oil, sweetness, and wine. They're producing actual value for society, and they recognize that grasping for power is fundamentally empty.
It highlights a tragic flaw in human governance, really. When capable people refuse to lead often because they are rightfully focused on productive enterprises, it creates a power vacuum.
And desperate people will always try to fill a vacuum.
Always. So, having been rejected by the olive, the fig, and the vine, the trees turn to the absolute lowest plant in the field, the bramble.
The thorn bush.
Exactly. A plant that produces no fruit, offers no timber, and is good for nothing except tangling up your clothes and serving as cheap kindling.
But the wild part is the bramble actually accepts the crown. It tells the mighty trees, come and take refuge under my shade.
Which makes no sense.
Right. I mean, so only the useless thorn bush accepts the crown. But why would the trees ever accept a bramble that offers no real shade? If a massive cedar tree tries to stand under a bramble, it doesn't get protection. It just gets scratched and entangled. It's a completely absurd promise.
It is absurd, but tyrants always sell absurd promises to desperate people. The bramble is offering a classic mafia-style protection racket here. The false promise of refuge is immediately followed by a dead...
Submit, or else.
Exactly. The bramble tells the trees, if you do not take refuge in my shade, let fire come out of the bramble and consume the majestic cedars of Lebanon. It demands submission, threatening to burn down the greatest among them if they refuse.
Jotham is totally decoding the reality of what Shechem has just done. He is telling them, you bypassed true leadership and chose a worthless, prickly thorn bush to rule you.
Yes.
And he ends his speech with this devastating prophetic curse. He tells the citizens that if they acted wickedly in murdering his family and crowning this usurper, then let fire come from Abimelech and consume Shechem. And let fire come from Shechem and consume Abimelech. It's a guarantee of mutual destruction.
He is articulating a fundamental law of consequence. An alliance forged in innocent blood and pagan money cannot produce stability. It can only produce fire.
So after delivering this curse, Jotham flees for his life. And for a while, it seems like Abimelech has actually gotten away with it. He dominates Israel for 3 years. But an alliance built on shifting sand eventually cracks.
It always does.
The text describes a divine fracture, stating that God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the citizens of Shechem to avenge the blood of the 70 brothers.
And this concept of the evil spirit is fascinating, and it requires a bit of nuance to really understand the mechanics of it.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because when the text says evil spirit, are we talking about a literal demon haunting the city streets? Or something else?
Right, not quite like a horror movie. Based on the study notes, the Hebrew word used is ra, which broadly means bad or evil.
Okay.
We aren't looking at a ghost. We are looking at a toxic atmosphere of discord, intense aversion, and deep-seated paranoia. It is divine justice manifesting as mutual distrust.
Which makes complete psychological sense.
Yeah.
The citizens of Shechem paid Abimelech to murder his own family. They know exactly what kind of monster he is because they bought his services. How could they ever truly trust him? And how could he ever trust the people who were treacherous enough to fund a coup in the first place? That shared guilt creates a natural, inescapable paranoia. God uses the very wickedness that brought them together to tear them apart.
The harmony just dissolves. The citizens of Shechem become actively disloyal. They start setting ambushes on the hilltops, robbing travelers and merchants along the trade routes.
Which ruins the economy.
Completely undermines Abimelech's authority and destroys the local economy. The criminal syndicate is turning on the boss.
And into this chaotic, paranoid environment steps a spark, a man named Gaul. Gaul arrives in Shechem with his brothers and the citizens, who are just exhausted by Abimelech's oppressive rule at this point. They decide to put their trust in him.
They're essentially looking for a new strongman to replace the old strongman.
Exactly. And this leads to a massive vintage festival. I want you to imagine the scene. The heat of the day, people out in the vineyards gathering grapes, their feet stained purple from stomping in the wine presses. They take the new wine, go straight into the temple of their god, and throw this massive, raucous party.
It transforms into a festival of treason. Fueled by liquid courage and the safety of a crowd, the citizens start openly cursing Abimelech.
They're feeling brave.
Very brave. And Gaul sees the mood of the room and decides to seize his political moment. He stands up and delivers this drunken stump speech, boasting about his own strength. He shouts, "Who is Abimelech? Why should we serve him? I wish I had this people in my hand. I would remove Abimelech."
He is talking a massive game. But in a paranoid, illegal regime, the walls always have ears. Abimelech doesn't even live in Shechem. He rules from afar.
Yeah.
But his loyal governor, Zebul, runs the city.
And Zebul is listening?
Oh, he is. Zebul catches wind of this treasonous festival and is absolutely furious. But he plays it smart. He doesn't arrest Gaul on the spot. Instead, he secretly dispatches messengers to Abimelech, advising him to march his army through the night and set an ambush in the fields outside the city.
Zebul is a master manipulator. He orchestrates this trap perfectly.
He really does. When morning breaks, the trap springs. Gaul, who is likely nursing a terrible hangover, walks out and stands at the entrance of the city gate. He looks out toward the horizon, and he sees movement.
And Zebul is standing right there next to him.
Right. Zebul is playing the role of a loyal friend. Gaul squints and says, "Look, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains." And Zebul gaslights him with this incredible cinematic tension.
It's amazing.
He tells Gaul, "You're just seeing the shadows of the mountains. They just look like men. Relax."
Zebul keeps Gaul calm just long enough for the net to close. As the troops get closer, Gaul realizes it isn't shadows, it's a heavily armed militia.
And that's when the mask slips.
Exactly. At that moment, Zebul drops the act entirely. He turns on Gaul and mocks him, demanding to know where his big mouth is now. He says, "Weren't you the one who asked who is Abimelech that we should serve him? Well, there's the army you despised. Go out and fight them."
I love that part. Zebul forces Gaul to cash the check his mouth wrote the night before.
He absolutely does.
Gaul leads the citizens out to fight, but it is a total slaughter. Abimelech crushes them, chasing them all the way back to the city gates, leaving a trail of dead and wounded. Zebul then officially exiles Gaul and his brothers from Shechem. Now, you might think the rebellion is over and the tyrant is satisfied.
But tyrants are rarely satisfied.
Never. Abimelech doesn't just want victory. He demands annihilation.
His ego has been bruised, and his response is overwhelming scorched earth vengeance. The very next day, the common people of Shechem, the farmers and laborers who weren't even part of the rebel army, they go out to their fields to work. And Abimelech sets an ambush for them.
Oh, the civilians?
Yes. He slaughters the civilian population. He then fights against the city all day, breaches the walls, kills everyone inside, and completely tears down the buildings.
And he doesn't just demolish the architecture. He commits an act of profound ecological warfare. The text tells us he sowed the city with salt.
Which is brutal.
It is. I mean, sowing the city with salt is the ancient equivalent of nuking a site from orbit. It's the ultimate symbol of a curse to make sure the land remains sterile and uninhabitable forever.
By salting the earth, he isn't just destroying their present, he is actively murdering their future. It is absolute malice directed at the very people who originally funded his rise to power.
Wow.
But a faction of survivors manages to escape. The leaders of the Tower of Shechem hear about the massacre and flee to the stronghold of the Temple of Elbrith.
And let's talk about why they went to the temple. Because in ancient cities, the temple was often the most heavily fortified structure, built with massive stone walls. It functioned as a vault and a last redoubt during a siege. They locked themselves inside, assuming the thick walls and perhaps the sanctuary of their god will protect them.
And this brings us to the terrifying, literal fulfillment of Jotham's fable.
Yes, the curse.
Remember the prophecy. If they crowned the thorn bush, fire would come out of the bramble and consume the citizens.
The symmetry here is just breathtaking. Abimelech takes his army up to Mount Zaman. He grabs an axe, chops down a tree branch, and hoists it onto his shoulder. He orders his men to do exactly as he does. So an entire army chops down branches from the forest. They march back down, pile the timber against the walls of the stronghold, and set it ablaze.
They burn the stronghold to the ground, killing 1,000 men and women inside. The literal bramble Abimelech uses the branches of trees to unleash a fire that consumes the very people who crowned him.
The curse is realized with horrifying precision. The trees burned the people, commanded by the bramble. But Jotham's curse had two parts, remember?
Right.
It wasn't just that Shechem would burn. It was also that fire from Shechem would consume Abimelech. The moral accounting of this narrative demands that the tyrant face his own reflection.
And arrogance always makes a tyrant predictable. Abimelech is riding high on this brutal victory, and he becomes obsessed with the specific military tactic of burning down strongholds. So he marches his army to a nearby city called Thebes to put down another rebellion.
Right, because it worked so well the first time.
Exactly. He captures the outer city of Thebes, but just like in Shechem, the citizens retreat and lock themselves inside a strong tower in the center of the town. Abimelech faces the exact same scenario, and he thinks he has the perfect playbook.
He's probably so confident.
Oh, overly confident.
Huh.
He marches right up to the heavy wooden doors of the tower, fully intending to set them on fire. He is standing right at the base of the wall, issuing orders.
And this is where the mechanics of ancient architecture seal his fate. The tower likely had a flat roof, which was common in the ancient Near East.
Yes.
Flat roofs weren't just ceilings. They were active workspaces where women would perform daily chores, including grinding grain using heavy stone hand mills.
Which brings us to the fatal blow.
Yeah. So as Abimelech is standing at the door below with his torch, an unnamed woman is standing on the roof above him. She looks down, picks up the upper piece of a millstone, which could weigh anywhere from 30 to 50 pounds, and she drops it straight down over the edge.
It is a direct hit. The heavy stone lands squarely on Abimelech's head, instantly shattering his skull.
We just have to stop and appreciate the dark poetry of this moment.
It's incredible.
When Abimelech started his bloody rise to power, he slaughtered his 70 brothers on a single stone. And now, at the absolute height of his supremacy, he meets his end by a single stone falling from the sky.
God's justice in this narrative is incredibly precise. The violence he exported returns to him in the exact same currency.
But even as he is lying there in the dirt, bleeding out from a crushed skull, what is his final concern? It's not his soul. It's not the thousands of lives he has destroyed.
No.
It is his PR legacy. He realizes it was a woman who dropped the stone.
Because in the hyper-masculine honor-shame culture of the ancient world, being killed by a woman who wasn't even a combatant was considered the ultimate humiliation for a warrior. It meant you died a pathetic, dishonorable death.
So he frantically calls out to his armor-bearer, and he begs him, "Draw your sword and kill me, so that no one can say of me, a woman killed him."
And the young armor-bearer runs him through with the sword.
And the Bramble King dies.
He tries to control the narrative right up to his final dying breath. But the ultimate irony is that the biblical writer records exactly how the events unfolded anyway. His desperate attempt to cover up his shame actually immortalized it for all of history.
His PR spin completely failed.
Yeah.
And the moment Abimelech is dead, his entire regime evaporates. The Israelite army sees that the strong man is gone, and they just pack up and go home. The threat dissipates into the wind.
Which brings us to the final summation of the study notes. The writer explicitly concludes that God actively brought the wickedness of Abimelech back upon him, the wickedness he committed by murdering his brothers.
Right.
And God simultaneously brought all the wickedness of the men of Shechem back upon their own heads. Jotham's fable wasn't just a clever political allegory, it was an exact moral accounting. The evil they colluded to create ended up destroying them both.
It's a stark, undeniable reminder that actions have inescapable consequences. A bramble can never produce good fruit. It can only produce fire. And those who try to find shade under a ruthless system will inevitably get burned by it.
The text forces us to evaluate the kind of leadership we support, the alliances we tolerate, and the moral compromises we are willing to make in the name of expediency.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. Just something for you to mull over as you navigate your week. When you look at the structures of power around you today, how often do the productive trees stay too busy in their own orchards, leaving a vacuum for the brambles to take control?
That is such a profound question to consider.
It really is. Well, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive. We are incredibly grateful you chose to spend this time with us exploring the depths of these ancient texts. God blesses all of you listeners. Until next time.